Welcome to the Immigrant Experience in America, an immigrant human library, where we amplify and humanize the experiences of immigrants in the United States and around the world. Listen in as we add another story to our immigrant human library.
What brought you to doing this work at what point did you think, this is what I want to do?
Well, this was born out of my personal experience moving from Jamaica legally to the U.S. and so many experiences of good and mixed and bad and trying to make sense of my life. Moving from the place where I felt like, in the embrace of love and acceptance and belonging, and I knew the culture because that's what I was born in. I moved and flowed within it with ease. Mm-hmm. And then living in the U.S., just constantly being confused. What are these not dialects, but like ways that people communicate, nonverbal communication, the work world, and the cultural spaces that exist in these different workplace spaces. I just realized I was experiencing culture shock, and just constantly changing. My work had me moving overseas and working in different places, and so I realized I wasn't adjusting well, and so I started researching and getting some coaching, and then here came upon the idea of the podcast to interview other immigrants about their journey, and through that I have learned so much about myself, and here we are today with the project expanding even further.
And how has it been in terms of these stories, if you want to share like common threads or anything like that, people experiencing when they move to the U.S. then in this case specifically?
Sure. So some common threads that come up throughout the interviews is the fact that people leave their countries for varying reasons, right? It's not because they want to study. You'll hear studying abroad is a big one for a lot of people. Lots of international students go away to study, not only the U.S., but in Europe and Asia and other places, right? In the Caribbean even. Whether they're joining family who's already living abroad, or they've been forced to leave their home country for natural reasons such as natural disaster, civil war, civil unrest, for a varying number of reasons, right? And so I get the different angles for why people have arrived in the U.S. Or I've interviewed people from in the U.K. and other places as well. And so some other threads include people who don't speak English and have had to learn English from scratch, and how difficult that can be coming from, say, Russian or an African language or any other language, right, they just didn't speak English coming into the U.S. or had very minimal English. So language barriers and overcoming those. And then the other adjustment challenges include like just losing yourself, feeling like you no longer fit in, you don't quite understand the new country, you're still learning, and so you don't quite fit in there, and it's just the learning curve just is up, sometimes feel very unending, right? For some people, you're just constantly learning. You're learning your job, you're learning school, you're studying the language. It's a lot. It could be a lot for people, and the study says that people go from mild depression to fatal self-harm. It can be very serious. And so some other threads, right? Just different challenges that people are having. And then the amazing success that people get to when they embrace the journey, they learn this whole immigrant mentality. And I mean, I've heard some amazing stories of what people have been able to do with their lives coming from some dark places, right? And so it's very uplifting for me, I think. And I think other people listening find so much strength and inspiration in hearing other people's journeys.
Yeah, and I think it's important work that you're doing to share these stories, because I think especially now that we're seeing a lot of anti-immigration sentiments, which I think were always kind of there in some numbers, but it seems to be amplified now. And I think it's not only in the US,